So, good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm very privileged to be interviewing, having an intimate chat with one of my favorite players on the Petanque scene. Certainly, what I consider this person to be one of the best pointers in the game and very, very good when it comes to the mental side. So, today we have Dean Ashby. Welcome to Petanque Interviews, Dean.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm really good today. Yeah, it's fun to be interviewing on a Saturday. So I've got a lot to look forward to. But let's get straight into it. One of the favorite questions I like to start with is where did it all start for you? What was the beginning? So let's go straight into that.
I was maybe about 12 years old. My auntie started playing petanque and was short of a player one week. And Wednesday night, quite late, she asked if I wanted to go and play. My mum was a bit like, it's a late finish. He's got school tomorrow. Um, but she said, yeah, it's fine. One off, we'll go. I played, really enjoyed it. Actually played quite well. I think I won my first game. Um, and then it was kind of like the bug from there. Really, just wanted to continue to play. I stayed at Lordswood for not very long, really, before we decided to make up our own team. And I moved to Tovel Working Men's Club in back end of Maidstone. And I was really lucky to have the landlord, Paul Hardwick, amazing friend, took me all over the country to get me playing a lot more. Um, my mum kind of had to stay playing as well, so she was fortunate enough to go to a championship. And Scott actually got dragged along, kicking and screaming. Wasn't interested at the start. Had no real want to play the game. And after a year or so, he kind of got into it a little bit more, and obviously his story's a little bit different, but it was a real family thing. We had some friends from school, both of our best friends, we got playing. And so we had quite a young team when we first started. And yeah, it was just we stayed at Tovel for quite a long time before Paul ended up leaving. And then we moved to the Railway, and that's where we currently play our Wednesday night matches. But obviously we're licensed with Meadow Petanque Club now.
Meadow, very, very famous in the UK for being one of the most cohesive clubs, very strong in terms of the members staying pretty much the same. Great achievements in Euro Cup, but also in other things within the UK. And I mean, you've mentioned family. What I've always found in Petanque is that family is very, very important, and we see it with the Scott family and yourself and various others where fathers play, mothers play, brothers, sisters, everyone. How important is that for you?
So on a Wednesday now, I still play most weeks with my mum. My stepdad plays. Scott's generally just actually stopped playing, but Jason's in our team, Kai's in our team. So it's that social side of it as well. For me, Wednesdays is just keeping your arm in. It's not massively serious. It's always nice to win. And we have been still quite successful with that as well with the team that we have. But it's more about like catching up and having a chat and just having a bit of fun and a social side. But um, like every now and then we still play some competitions on the weekends as well. But it's a uh, different kind of pressures and levels to that. For Euro Cup, we used to play again most of the family, and unfortunately, we got to a final one year in Whittlesey, and we end up coming third with the team that we had, which was like pretty incredible. And we ended up merging with Meadow once Bulldog kind of started that role and winning consistently. We had so many good players within Kent that we couldn't, but we were taking each other out, and we only had like once we merged that, it kind of we had kind of a common goal, and that kind of all come together, and it was actually really it's been quite successful since. So hopefully that continues as well.
Common goal to take Bulldog down, no doubt.
There's always a little bit of rivalry.
Bulldog, as we know, now they're a very, very successful team in Euro Cup, but also in Pétanque in general. So played there many times myself. So what motivates you? What drives you and makes you want, because you have achieved at the highest level, and worlds, national triples, loads. I mean, we'll come back to worlds in a minute, but what keeps you hungry?
I hate losing. If I'm going to do something, I want to win all the time. It doesn't matter. Like Jay says, we've got a pitch in the garden, and we'll go out for a practice, and he'll be throwing. He'll have shoot 3 times an end. Um, and he'll be like, "Why are you not shooting?" Because I want. It doesn't matter. I want to win. If I have to point, I point. If I need to shoot, I shoot. But whatever happens, I want to win. If it's a practice game, if it's a league game, if it's a national competition, I hate that feeling of losing. You said about mentality and things. My head is a lot better than what it was, but losing still. Like I remember when I first started, and I was about 12, and we had a Wednesday night league game. And at that time, that's quite serious. For like, I hadn't won very much, and I was young, and I played a team that I thought that I should beat every day of the week, and I lost. And I was, let's say, 12. Went and sat in a climbing frame. And they renamed that my climbing frame because I sat and sulked on there for about an hour, thinking about why I'd lost and what I'd done wrong. So like also playing with Scott, we stopped playing together for a long time because um, of the way that I was when I did lose, and he couldn't manage it. I couldn't manage it, and he couldn't manage it. And we argued quite a lot. So we stopped playing, and then once we started playing again, he said, like, I'm not having any of this like kind of petulance of when think like talking about luck all the time and blaming other things, um, and I really enjoyed playing with him. So it was either sort that out, and I enjoyed playing with Jay as well, and they're all very much like we just have to. It kind of rides itself, that luck, and it balances itself, and you can't keep on worrying about that. It will change and things will, and it just kind of clicked a little bit, and then my mentality kind of switched, and it is a lot better. There's still moments when things are really going wrong, and I still kind of look at that. Why is it going wrong? And what, like, it's not really fair at that moment. And but it is 100 times better than what it was. Go back 7, 8 years maybe.
It's interesting because I always see you as a very calm influence on the terrain. I don't see this petulance that I've been wary of in myself and certainly seen in others. And I'm really interested in where that drive comes from, that desire not to lose. What is it that upsets you so much?
I think it's knowing kind of the level and the expectations that we have as a team, and like knowing that what I can do on a Petanque pitch and what I expect to be doing. And most of the time, there's two things. It's either I expect more from myself and I don't understand why it's not going the way it is, or without being disrespectful, the amount of effort that I put into the game, you come up against somebody that might play once a week or once a month or something, and you're losing that game. I like that. I struggle with that because I feel like I should just go in and win that game. But unfortunately, with Petanque, nothing's ever a kind of given. Like, and that's why maybe we love the sport as well, because it's not like a tennis match or where the number one seed's always going to beat your 300 seed 9 times out of 10. Like you can lose to anyone in this game. Like you could be the best player in the world and you can lose. So I think that's why it's really difficult for me sometimes, because I want to win every game, but it doesn't matter how good you are, you still can't win. So you put the effort in on the pitch and practice and hope that that kind of transfers onto game day.
So what is it that makes your practice and your determination different to, say, someone who puts in plenty of effort, lots of practice, lots of years, but they haven't achieved what you have? What would you think is the main difference?
I think it's who you play with as well. But with my practice personally, when on the lead up to the qualifiers for trying to qualify for the Europeans in Albertville, um, I was working specifically like on landing spots, and I was trying to support Alex actually because she was trying to qualify as well. And I said to her, you need to work on the pointing aspect of it. Like we know you can hit ball, but you need to work on the point. And we were working on playing at 6 meters, 7 meters, 8 meters, 9 meters, lots of different circles, and not trying to stop the ball, but just hitting a spot consistently. Like, so I said, you've got 20 throws at 6, 20 throws at 7, 8, 9, 10. And I want you to do it from squat and then from just a normal point, and then from a lob. And once I felt she was hitting 15 or more out of the 20, then I was putting a cosh behind and was like trying to stop it within a hitting the spot, but then stopping it within an area. Because I say this to a lot of people, I do try and kind of get out there and help. If people want some advice, then I'm happy to kind of try and give that. But if you can hit your spot and you know how you throw the ball, then you're halfway there. But like if you think you're hitting a spot and you think it's going to stop and you're never stopping it and it keeps running through, then you've got the wrong spot. But if you keep hitting that, then you know that you're going to be able to throw it where you want and it's going to be in the vicinity. And when you're playing with people like Jason, Roland, Scott, if I'm in a vicinity, it takes a lot of pressure off me playing with people like that as well. But when you're in a vicinity, then they're going to come in and do the damage. They're going to hit the ball, and then you've got a ball that's in an area. And then people sit there and they think, oh, should we shoot? Should we point? They point, Jason hits a shot. And if they shoot, they miss, then we're ball up. And it just kind of, it just works. I don't know. It's not...
So it's a mindful practice. And in my opinion, focusing on the micro, not the macro. So the spot is the most important thing. The outcome isn't. Again, I talk about this a lot, focusing on the process, not the outcome. So what does good look like for you?
When I'm throwing, or...
Yeah, because you've got a very different style for pointing. You typically, in my opinion, from what I've witnessed, it's a semi-high lob that's not a super lob, but it's very effective, very slow arm release, very slow hand release, and one of the best results that I see in the game.
So, I mean, my teammates say I attack the point too much. And sometimes it's a little bit behind, and also sometimes it's a little bit too close. The way I throw the ball, I try and think if I can land maybe a meter in front, because I don't have the most amount of spin or maybe the most amount of height. If it stops dead, then I've got a ball banging line a meter in front. And if it rolls on a foot or 2 foot, then I'm in a pretty close area. And then that gives us a chance to attack. So, yeah, sometimes maybe when the cosh is close to the side of the pitch, maybe I attack it too much. I have a left to right, and sometimes I do go a bit too close to the string, so I attack it too much, and I have thrown the odd ball over the string. And I remember from the first championship, Roland was coach, and he said, in this tournament, you played really well. You played every game. He said the only criticism is you've thrown 2 ball dead in reasonably important times because you attacked it too much, and you could have been a foot left and it would have been ample because Jay was shooting really well. And sometimes I just have to remember that I don't have to attack everything, and I don't have to be right next to the cosh on every shot. Especially if you're playing against a good side, you don't need to be. If you're that close, and people do it quite a lot, they decide they don't want to shoot and they point, and then Jay comes and it's a spotter, and we're 2 ball up, really relatively close, and you're in trouble. So I don't have to be close all the time. I just have to give us a platform to get us rolling and get us in a good position. I do like a little bit of the something a bit special, like a cosh roll movement every time, every now and then. I like a promotion. I like to have a ball near the end. And I've also been working since Albertville. I've worked quite a lot on the shot as well. So like at the last championships, it wasn't necessarily loads of work on the point, but it was a fair amount of work on the shot just to get in a position where I felt like I know I'm not going to hit every ball because I don't shoot enough, but to be able to feel comfortable when I go into the circle that I have a chance of hitting the ball, which at times I haven't. So yeah,
It's
that's been
interesting
one.
because I often say shooting is pointing onto a ball rather than a spot. And you have to flip the mindset with that to get the outcome, but it's still the same process. So we talked, you mentioned Worlds, and you've been selected, and congratulations.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, unfortunately we didn't make the top percentage to get a team to the next World Championships. And so to find the teams from Europe that are going to be going that haven't quite made the cut so far, there's going to be a 1-day qualifying series in Luxembourg in back end of November. and we've been asked to go and try and get that spot. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be quite a tight turnaround. Our work can be quite difficult, so we're going to be going out late evening. So it's going to be quite a long process, and hopefully we're in a good space to we're trying to play again now. We know that that's happening because obviously the season starts to wind down a little bit. I don't think I've thrown since the regionals a couple of weeks. So I've got a competition tomorrow, I've got a competition next week, and then we've got champions the week after. So still trying to now get back out there. And obviously, I said we've got the pitch in the garden, so we'll be hopefully as ready as we can be to go out there and try and get that spot so that we can send a team next year.
Right. So it's not actually the world, it's a qualifier for representing in the world.
Yeah, which is it's a difficult one because obviously if we do manage to get England a spot, then sometimes you feel like that should be your spot. But there's a qualifying process, and we'll do our best if you've got to be in it to then get that chance to try and qualify next year.
Wow. So you might qualify, but may not play.
Yeah,
Damn.
bit of pressure on that then.
That's a hard one to get your head around, but great motivation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the last World Championships, I think that people would have probably said that we were the favourites to go after just qualifying and performing well in Albertville. And we made a few changes. Scott had a year out because he just had the birth of his baby, and the balance of the team wasn't quite right, and so we went back again this year, and Scott came back in on the understanding that he wouldn't be playing as much. He still has his daughter; she's still young, but just having him in the team was fundamentally like so important. He brings so much to that, like that calmness. That when he did play, he didn't play actually very well in the qualifiers, and hopefully he doesn't get too offended with that. But every game, and it wasn't even that he wasn't playing, but it just wasn't working. But every time we were down in a game and he was playing, he would go, "We need to change," and we change it in like straight away. It wasn't we're going to wait an end or we're going to wait a couple of ends. We changed it, and every time we changed it, we won. We come back and we managed to win the game, and we won all of the games over the weekend. We had some really tight games and some games that we didn't perform well in, but we kind of got over the line in. And we were fortunate enough to win all the games, and then obviously go to Santa Susana this year and again perform pretty well in
Yeah.
most of the games.
So the team is yourself, Scott, Jason, and Kai.
So no, it was so Roland Scott's not going to play this year, so because he's
Okay.
got another baby on the way. So but he's me, Kai, Jay, and Roland. So Kai's been brought in. He was the part of the team that finished second last year, and overall, I think maybe he was the best player last year, like that we played against as a team. And again, he's just come on leaps and bounds. And I know you're going to have a chat with him later, so I don't need to talk
Yeah.
too much about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's in a really good space at the moment. He's playing well, and he brings a lot to the team. And he's a similar position to what Scott would do. So I think it's going to be a nice fit.
So, obviously you mentioned how important it is playing with your brother, and he's been a big influence and a big part of your life in many, many ways. And certainly I know when I talk to other people about overcoming difficulties, overcoming injuries, I mean, you and him have quite a remarkable story. So please, for those people who don't know.
So Scott went to give blood, donate blood. Going back, I don't know exactly how long now, but when he went, they said that there was an issue and he needed to go and get some results and be checked out. And unfortunately, when they came back, it came that his results said that his kidney function was really low. So they done some more tests, they done some ultrasounds, and they found out that he only had one kidney, and it doesn't necessarily, you're not going to know whether you have one or two kidneys unless something happens. So he's had only one kidney for his life, and the good kidney was no longer working at a good capacity. and it was told that he needs a kidney transplant. Um, so straight away when he said that, obviously it was quite difficult news to kind of to take. He's always been relatively healthy, not as kind of active and as healthy as myself, but he is, he never any issues with health really. Um, and so straight away people started to get tested, and there was the community of people that we have around us. Everybody was like, "Well, I'll get tested," and your family, friends, Petanque people like Roland, people like Roland stopped smoking because he thought if he needed to give Scott a kidney, then he wanted to be as healthy as possible. So the people that we have around us, we're incredibly lucky. Um, and fortunately, my levels matched. Obviously, being a brother, they were kind of like the best match at the time. Being reasonably young, they said that my kidney would last longer. So, I mean, my mum and my dad, they both wanted to give. Jay wanted to give, and but they said at the time like mine was not option and the best option. And but if he needs one at a later date, then they would, because they don't last forever. Like he may well need another transplant at some point. Um, so yeah, we started doing the tests, and um, my levels. I don't working in a school and a pupil referral unit, like you don't get many breaks. You turn your back and the kids are kicking off, beating each other up, and all kinds of stuff. So um, we, I don't drink very much during the day. So my levels, although my kidney was reasonably healthy, my levels were quite low. So I had to change the way I thought about things and drink a lot more throughout the day. You got a glass of water there, I've got a glass of Coke. I don't drink water very often. It's something that I just never have. Juice, squash, things like that, maybe, but not water. So I had to drink a lot of water to get my levels up. And we got around to having the operation. We went into the hospital the night before, got beds next to each other, which he won't. He wanted to be down the other end, but yeah, so we're there. They've done some tests, and when they came back then in the morning, they said that my levels were pretty low and they weren't good enough. So I was like, oh great, and everyone, that's quite emotional that you think you're there, you're about to go down, and now you can't. So they had to retest. Unfortunately, I drank a lot of water when we first arrived at the hospital, and my levels went back up to a good enough level that we could go through. So there's like, it's happening, it's not happening, it's happening. So there was quite a lot of emotion with that. When I went down to have the operation, Scott was like, he told the people that if I don't come out of it, then he's not having it done. So he had to see me before he went into the operation to have the kidney as well. And I just remember waking up, and he was sitting up. He was bolt upright as if he's like ready to run a marathon, and I'm like dying next to him. I'm like, what's going on here? And he was fine. And it took me. I was really sick afterwards, but his levels kind of straight away. He was kind of back to having energy. And the way that they described it is like a dimmer switch, like going down a little bit each time. You don't really notice it, but then 1 minute it's light and the next minute it's dark, and that's the energy levels that kind of he had. Um, and thankfully it was successful. It took well, um, and his levels are probably better than mine now. So he's done really well, and as from that he's then now got two children nearly.
So it hasn't affected his fertility.
No, actually, it's probably there was some issues there at times, but it's amazing that he's. I think he's really happy. He's got a lovely family, and looking forward to meeting the new baby in November.
That's amazing. It's funny how everything in Petanque is life, literally. And as you said, people were coming forward offering their body parts to help you. And I don't think you'd get that in other sports. I really don't, because it's such a close, small community, but also worldwide.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah,
Thankfully after that, like I couldn't sit still very much for very long, and they were like, you can't do any sport or anything for like 2 months. And 4 weeks after, I was throwing a petanque ball in the garden, and Tanya was having a go. Like, you need to rest, you need to recover. I'm like, I'm fine, I'm not doing anything. And then a few weeks after that, it was regionals, and we were down, and we we were playing, and I wasn't expecting to play as much as I did that weekend. I wanted a few more rests, but unfortunately I ended up playing quite a lot, and I think we won 10 games that weekend. It might be 9. So um, yeah, and then obviously straight after that, we then qualified for Albertville, which was my first championships.
Yeah. And of course, you've gone on to do triathlons and all sorts of other things since then. So your energy levels can't be lacking.
Yeah, no, I mean, no more triathlons. That was yeah, that was a bit too much. Maybe I just picked the hardest thing. I don't really know why. I've always kind of liked to put myself in those kind of positions, and they were like doing all of those sports individually is great fun. Putting them all together, getting kicked in the face in the swim, and yeah, it's not something that maybe I would like to. I might do one at some other point, but it's not on my top of the list to continue to do, if I'm honest.
You've ticked that box. Don't need to worry about it. And that was the World Transplant Games, if I recall.
Yeah,
And
it
you
was.
medaled
Yeah,
there as well.
yeah. I got a gold for the Petanque. To be fair, there's not many people because when you look at it, there's different categories for it. So there's the recipients and then there's the donors. And the donor categories, without being too morbid, a lot of the donors it comes from people that have passed away from accidents and different things. So there's not a lot of donors around that tend to go to the transplant games. So my category, there wasn't a lot of people, but I played in the final. I played a man from India who had given his kidney to his wife, and just talking to Scott spoke to all of the people that he played before. How long have you had your transplant? What have you had? And again, that community of people that have gone through the same kind of trauma and the same issues is it's great to hear. I was, I mean, I got the gold for the Petanque, and that was unfortunately he hadn't played very much, and I won 13-0, and he said afterwards, "Can we put the score as 13-12?" I said, "Yeah, it's fine, not a problem." Because I got the medal, I don't need to score. You can have the. He didn't want to be embarrassed, and I looked him up afterwards, and he won like 4 gold medals in the sprint and everything else. So I was like, I should have just embarrassed him, maybe, and given him the 13-0. And then yeah, I was lucky to. I think there was about 8 or 9 people in my category for the triathlon, but a lot of the people kind of got fished out of the water, and I thought I was one of those people at one point. I made up quite a lot of time on the bike, maybe 15 minutes off my best on the bike. And then the run was quite steady. I overtook a few people near the end, but you just don't know who you're competing against because there's over 200 people at the start. So you don't know who's part of your category. So you just have to, every time you're near someone, you just have to give it everything to go past that person. So I think I knocked off half hour maybe off my best because I only done one previously as well. So I was worried about the time and not necessarily the medal. And I think I was more emotional maybe getting the silver for the triathlon than I was the gold for the Pétanque because maybe it was not expected, but like obviously when you play at a high level, your kind of expectations is that you're going to do quite well when you go into a competition abroad, and you're not sure how many people have had a transplant that play Pétanque. It doesn't sound like there's going to be many. So
Well, also you're out of your comfort zone,
yeah,
very much so. And like, I've done hundreds of triathlons and things, and I know I resonate with everything you're saying, kicked in the head and chasing people down and never knowing where you are. And it it's certainly character building. And talking of character building, obviously you've had to overcome all these different things. And how do you think that's changed your attitude in the game and your application to the game?
I think some of the setbacks that I've had, I've was for a long time. It made me quite resentful of players changing teams when I felt maybe I was one of the better people within the team, and then the person that's perceived as better goes into a different team and does quite well. Um, I've had qualified at number one year, and then the competition changed. So after it finished, they then changed it to a Super 8, and we had to do another few competitions where so I was number one by 3 or 4 games, and then when it changed to a Super 8, unfortunately, one of the people that was in my team, I don't know if you know him, Rob Cooter, one of my best friends. Unfortunately, he had a car crash and passed away. So after qualifying one with him, um, and Steve Brown, Trevor Glenn. And then they changed shortly after that, the accident happened, but they changed it to the Super 8. And I stopped playing for a little bit seriously because I just needed a bit of time to evaluate the change in the system, but then also the loss of a close friend. And then I just enjoyed playing with different people for a while. And I was in the top 8 for a long time, maybe a bit like Vince, to be fair. He's been in the top however many top 3 or 2 for a while, and I was a bit like that. I was in the top 8, always in the top 8, but never that push on. So maybe after the transplant, maybe it was karma. Maybe it was like a bit of good karma back for trying to do the right thing. Maybe it was just hard work and dedication. I like to think it's a bit of both. Like I say, we've made the pitch in the garden. We're out practicing before we go away. We're going to be playing most days, even if it's 10 minutes. Now we've got somewhere in the garden just to keep your arm in, just to keep going. That helps. Playing with different people as well, just trying to like give back a little bit and seeing what other people have to offer as well. That's good. I'm playing with 2 different people over the next couple of weeks. That one person I've not played with before, and one that he'll make me shoot. So that makes me go outside of my comfort, but do something. When I do shoot all day, actually, it's normally not too bad. It's just when I struggle maybe to flip between the point and the shot. But it's I just think that there's been setbacks. There's been a lot of times when we were really close. I remember one year I was playing with Jack, Phil, and Johnny, and we were in the semi-final and I wasn't playing, and we missed. It was a really good game, but we missed 7 or 8 shots for about 16 points, and we lost to 12. And I was standing on the pitch behind, and I was practicing. And I was hitting quite a lot of ball. I was thinking, just let me come in. But the team was playing so well. It was just that one shot that just kept on missing. And I thought that was a really good opportunity. Juniors, I didn't really play juniors because I qualified early on for Kent, but in the adult squad, and we had so many good players in Kent at that time that it was a massive achievement, and I didn't want to go and play with the junior. That sounds like that's not an arrogance thing. I just felt like I deserved to kind of go and play in that adult bit because I'd qualified there with my team, so I wasn't around for the juniors for internationally, and then I had like 2 years at the end where we didn't really know much about juniors internationally at that time for whatever reason. I don't know whether it was quite low on the priority list or whether we just stayed within our bubble a little bit. And then Espoirs came along, and I had 1 year or 2 years, I think, of Espoirs, and I didn't qualify, but I played with Scott and Greg, and Greg's phenomenal shooter when he's in the right space, but he turned up with a broken hand. He was working on a building site. He had some slabs dropped on his hand, and he turned up, and we were playing teams like Jeremy, Ben, Miles, Dean Seville, Matt Shrimp, loads of different. At that stage, the pool of youth coming through was just incredible. And Greg turns up, and he's like, I don't know how good I'm going to be because I've dropped these blocks, and his hand was swollen, and he must have missed 2 balls all day, and we won every game. But it was a two round thing. So the next week his hand was all right and he was rubbish. And we were as a team we were rubbish, but he didn't. And we ended up all we need. I think knowing what you need sometimes is worse. And we needed we played Dean Seville, Chris Smith, and Matt Shrimpton in the last game, and we needed to get 7 or 8 points, and we would have won. I think we got fannied, and I was awful that day as well. I was really bad. I changed my shoes, I changed my clothes, I couldn't get comfortable. Everything was going wrong, and we didn't qualify. So I didn't get to go for Espoirs. I didn't go to juniors, and I kind of skipped out a lot of that and just went straight into adult kind of competition, which may have sped things up or may have slowed things down, but never really had any kind of coaching, which is why sometimes I like to support other people and see if I can help trying to improve some of their games, especially within the Kent region, because obviously we're all at one point we're all together, and this year we have a squad day before the weekend before we go away to the regionals, and we try and mix up teams, and we let people play with people they haven't played with, learn and work on different tactics, make them take charge at different points of the game and how they would do things. And then we done a few. Jason worked on some shooting drills with some people that wanted to improve on that a little bit. I worked on some pointing drills with some people, and trying to just give back a little bit to the region as well in that with that kind of thought process.
It obviously worked because you took the title home.
We did, and on the way down, me and Kai were looking at the teams, and we were going through, and we always thought it was going to be first or second, but potentially second, because we said Chiltern, if you play this team against this team, who wins? And we were looking at it, and I thought maybe Chiltern had like a 5 or 6 game swing in their favour with the strength of their team. But you can't take away the group and the togetherness of what we had. I like to think that there's, I have a little bit to do with that. Like I'm quite a passionate person. I definitely bring the energy when the teams, we come out on the second day when it was raining after lunch, and Gareth's, come on, everyone's going out. I was like, mate, it's teaming it down. I said, if I go over there and the team's not there, I'm not going to be happy. And he was like, just go out. So me and Kai went out there, and we were, I don't know, we went a bit doolally, we went a bit crazy, I think, and we're skipping down the pitch, and we got off to a good start, and managed to win our game early. But that energy, I felt like it just kind of maybe lifted the teams that were around us as well, and that's definitely something that I try and do, especially when we go abroad as well, or when it just feels a bit flat. I think when we was in Santa Susana, it was so hot that and there was a couple of times where we were just a little bit lagging, and it started to the games started to drift or bring the other team back into it a little bit. And Tim and Scott just basically both said, like, we need more energy. So I was like, okay, next ball that goes on, I'm going to give it a little bit of bit of a raw, bit of a pump, Rory McIlroy style yesterday in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
And just try and like get that energy into the team, and make people think, oh, they're still there. And that's definitely something that I like to do. Sometimes it's I think about it, and sometimes it just comes out. It depends on the time of the game, and what's happening, how important I think something potentially is in that part of the game, or how well I've actually done something. So, yeah.
I think raw emotion is infectious, because if you've played a great shot and you're like, yeah, then it lifts all the boats. And so many people are busy being cool and just gentle fist pumps. I'm like, give me a high five, come on.
I think it's dependent on the time of on how we're doing. So at the regionals the other week, we was playing Chiltern in the last round, and we were up in quite a lot of games, and everything felt quite good, but we were struggling in our game. And we made a bit of a change within the team, and Kai went into shot, and he hit 2 lovely shots in the rain at about 10 and a half meters. And that raw emotion that he had, because that's normally me, that made me, and we were stomping down the pitch, and we were like, and it just felt like it changed the game a little bit. And yeah, just like everyone laughs, takes a mick a little bit, says I sound a bit like a dinosaur or something, all kinds of things, but I don't really care. So if it does the business for the team, and it brings out that a bit more energy and gives us that push over the line, then I'll continue to do it until forever.
So you've mentioned teamwork a number of times, and it's obviously very important for you, and team cohesion as well. And I mean, what do you look for in a teammate? Because you've had a selection, but mostly been the same people.
Um, Consistency, someone that you can rely on, someone that everyone has different things. Like I don't really need anyone to talk to me too much about what I need. But if I want to go to you, I want to and ask you, like, what do you think? Is it coming out? If it's not going great, is it a bit low? Is it not got enough spin? Is it not? Am I throwing it low all of a sudden? Have I lost a bit of height? it's not working quite the same. Should I change it? If I need that, then the teammates that I pick to play with, they will give me that information I need. But most of the time, they just let me do what I need to do. Um, there are occasions Jay loves to tell me sometimes I need this one close. I know that, mate. Thanks. Like I don't need you to tell me that. But I don't know. Yeah, supportive, allowing me to. They always say as well, like, yeah, I like to go for a push every now and then. They're like, you don't have to attack it that much. And naturally, I do attack it that much because that's what I want to do. But if it's a really important game, then I listen to my teammates and I do what I need to do. But they always say that I attack it too much and I push for too much. But just yeah, that having that belief that they believe in you, having the belief in them. Um, like I know that Jay, even if he's not playing great, he's still going to give me at least 50% most of the time, and that's rare. So and Roland, Scott, Kaya, those people, I think it helps that they're friends, their family. Like me, Jay, Kai, Alex, Scott lives in the same road, but we all live in the same house. So if I want to go out and practice in the garden, one of them will come and throw a ball. And again, because I don't like losing and they're good players, then you have to raise your game or you have to work on things, and it helps having those people that are close as well that play. Sometimes it's a bit too much. Me, Jay, Kai work together, drive to work together, come back, work in the same area together now, and then we play Petanque at the weekends together. So sometimes you do need a bit of a break, but so that's why we sometimes play with different people every now and then, just because it gives you something a bit different. But having those people in the house definitely kind of helps for consistency and to build that rapport and relationship on the pitch.
Yeah, it's interesting because being in a team, you can get insights into your own game and also insights into other people's games that you may not necessarily get if you're not used to playing with each other, because people will often hold back the truth or an observation for fear of upsetting someone or that they'll be dumped or whatever. And I think honesty and consistency in a team is absolutely vital, especially post-game analysis. And talking of post-game analysis, hindsight is a beautiful vision. Has there been moments or games where you've looked back and said, "Oh God, if we'd done that"?
Yeah, of course, always. Mainly games that you lose. Um, I think the last year when we were trying to qualify, and I say Scott didn't play, so Dave came into the team, Dave Plumoff, and we had me, Jay, Roland, and Dave, and we were trying to find a balance. We hadn't played together very much as a four. We played together individually at different things, but we were just trying to see, like, all of a sudden you have two powerhouse shooters in the team. How do you fit them both in? We're playing at Leicester and Worthing. Do we need that much firepower? Do we go more pointing? And the first game we got drawn against Jack, Matt, Callum, and Jeremy, maybe. I think that was their team. And we won the first game. It was 3 rounds Swiss, I think. We won the first game. We then played the second game. I think we won that as well. On the last game, we played Tim Edwins and his team, and we changed our team a couple of times just to keep because we were working on things. And unfortunately, we didn't start well when we were 7 or 8 nil down, and we tried to make a change. We kind of agreed that we'd wait a couple more ends, and the game fell away. And losing that game cost us going to a world championship. I believe cost us going to the world championships because we then played Jack's team again in the first round in the afternoon, and we lost to 10 or 11. It was a tight game. But if we'd won that game, we wouldn't have played them to a latter stage, and we only end up missing out by like a win or so. So that, in hindsight, maybe me, Roland, and either Jay or Dave start that game against him and Glenn, and I think it might have been might have been Dean Webb. I think it was, yeah. And if we'd done that, then maybe we win that. There's no guarantee, but maybe we do a bit better in that game, and we then avoid Jack's team until the latter stages, and then we've had a bit more time to gel as a team as the day goes on, and maybe we win that game, and it's completely different. But overall, we weren't at the races for that qualifying series, and the best team did go. I can only say we're fortunate enough that I believe the best team went the year before and the year after. So it normally kind of sorts itself out. Hopefully, we're the best team again this year, and we get another shot if we can manage to qualify. So,
So do you have within the team that you have at the moment, do you have different strategies and different tactics depending on the opponent or the conditions? Because you mentioned playing in the hammering rain in the recent interregionals.
yeah, I think so. I think it depends on it depends on how Jay's shooting and how Roland's shooting. Because if they're both shooting well and they feel good, then we're going to attack quite a lot. It depends on the pitch. You play at Leicester, which is a really unforgiving pitch. How many ball are we generally going to hit? We're probably going to hit more than most teams, but do we need to shoot when you've got me and Roland pointing? Maybe we can point four ball. And then if we're saying that it's that difficult to shoot, then the people that we're playing are potentially not going to hit 3, 4, 5 ball. So you'll probably win the game like that as well. On a more difficult point in pitch, maybe we might go a little bit shorter and then attack a little bit more. But also, if it's a really difficult pitch to point and shoot on, maybe we go long and say that we're the best pointers, so we go longer. And can you match that? Can you deal with that? So
So have
there's
you got
it,
these set out in your mind before the game even starts, or do you just adapt as the game flows?
feel like I'm quite lucky because I just have to work on what I need to do, and I've got Jay, I've got Roland who and Scott most of the time. That they, if if Roland's not playing, Jay throws the kosh. Sometimes there's not much thought process in that, but when Roland throws the kosh, he looks at spots that are going to support me because if I start us well, they're hitting the ball, they can hit it anywhere. So if where do I need the kosh to support me and sometimes help me. Um, and so that's, but I don't have to think too much about whether we're going to go long, short. I can give an opinion every now and then if it's not going right, but I just kind of, I feel like we're so comfortable that it's not a massive, unless we're in a real tough game or you're playing against maybe the top 3 or 4 teams maybe in the country, then that's not necessarily a full process. It's about how are we going to throw the best ball and not necessarily how's everyone else going to. Because if we do play at the top of our game, long, short, wherever, is anyone else going to be able to match that? And if the answer is no, then it's just feel comfortable with how you're throwing and where you want to play.
It's a really underestimated skill, the ability to throw the cochonnet well and to a specific place to help either the shooter or the pointer or the outcome of a game to take opponents out. Is there any specific advice you'd give to newer players for things like drills, like cochonnet throwing, or any other things for someone who aspires to be the level you are?
So I think that keep the cosh to the sides because I think that especially if you're playing against a team that is relatively new or only has a certain amount of ways that they can throw the ball, if you keep playing down the middle, it's just like you just keep rolling it, and there's not much variation on a lot of pitches. So if you go diagonal, then you have to think a little bit more about the length and how it's turning and what's happening on it. But as I say, I don't really throw the cosh, too often. So I just have to worry about having my routine of when I'm going to throw the ball and how I want to throw it.
And what does your routine look like?
So once the cosh is thrown, 9 times out of 10, I'll probably be down the other end. So I'll pace that out. I'll get to the circle. I will most of the time crouch down, have a look. If there's anything in my eye line, it doesn't have to be somewhere where I want to land. But if it is, then I'll feel a spot of where I want to be landing. But if there's nothing there, then I will feel something in just because it's in my eye line. And that's just the routine that I go to. And then I go back to the circle and I throw, and I do that every time because I know that some people feel that if they throw a good ball, they don't need to get out of the circle. They don't need to. I'll get out of the circle nearly every time because I think that if I've thrown a really good ball and I've hit a spot that I'm happy with, then I want to probably be landing somewhere there again. I don't want to be landing in a divot or something that's going. I want to prepare my spot so that I know that it's going to work again. So I like to get out of the circle every time, and just that is just my routine of how I do things. But um,
So you mentioned standing down the other end, and I
mm,
see this a lot in newer players to the game. They're standing behind the person who is pointing. They're not
yeah,
up at the other end. They're not watching what that player is doing. Whether they think that's just normal, but standing at the other end gives you a totally different perspective and allows you to see how the other player plays, how their ball is reacted, how their ball lands on a particular spot, and you can get an awful lot of analysis from that. Do you watch other people's ball?
um, I do, but also I feel like I throw differently to a lot of people, so it's sometimes it doesn't massively help. Um, because I try and throw more of a lob because I feel like it takes out a lot of the ground, so it takes away less chance of turning, kicking, all of those. If I throw it well, I'm in control of the ball, and I don't think everyone always kind of thinks like that or throws like that. But if the only time I'll stand behind the circle is if I've thrown a really crap ball and I'm angry with myself and I know that I'm going to be throwing again in a minute because we're not going to attack unless it's nailed on because my ball's not a defendable ball. So if I've thrown something really bad and I know that they're going to give me chip down the other end, then I'll stay up there and I'll be angry with myself and I'll let them throw the ball. I'll go back down, do my routine, and come back after. But most of the time, I've tried to get a few players that stand behind. I said, but number one, if you can't see how all you can see is that person in front of you. You can't see it like, and it gives you if you don't go down there as well. It looks so different from the circle. Sometimes I go from the circle that looks really good, or it looks on, but you go down the other end and there's loads of room. So
Exactly.
all of a sudden that changes. I can go more left or more right to come around that ball. Um, so yeah, I would say that it's always beneficial to stand with your team as well. It gives you more of a cohesion, and you can have conversation about how the game's going or anything. And then it can be where do you want the next ball rather than just going and being right. I'm going to throw the ball, and it could be anywhere. Like, do we want it left? Do we want it right? Do you need it closer? Do we play towards the front ball? What are we? What do you want? And sometimes we need to have that conversation. Sometimes we don't. But yeah, standing with your team, and I think that's a benefit for that.
Definitely. Tough question now for you. You hate losing. You've just thrown a bad ball. How do you wipe your mind clear from the fear of losing or the maybe I'll throw another bad ball or oh my God, they're expecting me to be great and I've just been rubbish? And how do you, right, turn it round, restart? What do you do?
I just believe in myself that the next one's going to be better. I think so many people, especially when they throw the lob, they get them stuck in their hands. Alex is a prime example. She might not like it that I'm going to say this, but she can throw a lob. She's not devoid of ability in throwing a lob. However, when she throws a lob, sometimes it comes off her fingers and it goes straight up and goes nowhere. The next ball she throws is low and normally a little bit hard because she's embarrassed that she's just done that. Anyone can get one that sticks in your fingers. Like any sport, golf, shank one, whatever. Like it happens, but you can't. If you're embarrassed about that, your next ball's not going to be any good at all. Like I throw so many good balls that if I throw a bad ball, I'm allowed to throw a bad ball, and I think I've had to learn that because I'm not going to play 100% effective ball all the time. So you just have to go. The next ball's going to be better and try and improve on the one that you've just thrown. And again, it's about trying to help the team and support the team and trying to get us into a position. It's not always about me and how I'm feeling about my ball. As much as I like it to be great all the time and it wants to be, I want to be the best all the time. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. So you just have to hope that your teammates then can cover you. And luckily, the people I play with most of the time, they do get me out of trouble if I do throw some bad ball. I get quite a lot of freedom when you're playing with people like Jay, Rose, Scott, Kai. Because if I do throw a bad ball, I know that something good is coming after that. I don't like, so it takes pressure off of how I throw the ball as well. I can attack it. I can attack it because they're going to cover me if it goes wrong. Um, and that's, I think I'm quite lucky in that aspect. Not everyone is. Like sometimes if you're playing with new players, do you throw the first ball or do you keep one of your ball back, or what do you do to try and support them, but you don't want to make them feel bad because you're keeping a ball back? And you've got all of those thought processes. But when you're in a good side and you believe in your teammates, then and they believe in you, knowing that they believe that I'm going to do effective ball, and knowing that if I don't, they're going to cover me, that just makes everything a lot easier.
So where did that inner belief in your own ability come from? Because the hatred of losing drives ability, in my opinion. I used to hate losing, so I put myself through hell to be able to achieve a certain level. I'm guessing you kind of have the same outlook.
Yeah, I guess it's work, consistent work, and I do really still now hate losing. And again, as I say, it's more about my own performance and why we've lost. If we've lost, then I would say it's because I've not given us a good enough platform. It doesn't matter what everyone else does. It's I believe at that moment it's about my performance. Um, and I may still have made like 6 out of 10 count, but if the others have made nines and tens out of 10 count and we end up losing the game, then it's my fault. It doesn't matter if I've thrown a few good ball here and there. So just trying to be consistent as possible and trying to, I say, just keep supporting the team and hopefully, but yeah, the hatred of losing means that I do put in a lot of work. And as I say, like after Albertville, I know we'll probably talk about important shots at some point.
I was coming around to that.
So in Albertville, the first game that we played was against France, and I my big concern the night before when I saw the draw was that on the first end I throw the first ball and it's bad, and my first championships, or that they throw the first ball, we hit four, and then I have to hit one. That was a massive fear of mine going into the day, and we won the toss, and the cosh was maybe 7 meters, and the first ball I threw was good, and I was like, okay, I said you can tick that one off. Um, and unfortunately, as the end unfolded, Jay hit a carrow. They missed one. They then hit it. Jay hit a carrow. Scott missed one, but then hit a carrow. And Susho pointed, dragged the cosh back to about 10 meters, 10.5 meters, and was holding two. And I stood next to Scott and Jay, and we all had a bit of a laugh because this is the dread and the fear that was going through me all night, probably. And I was I was fortunate. I hit the ball and we got three on the first end, and that kind of eased into that. So that was definitely up there with one of the best kind of shots that I threw. Um, in the same instance, we played Sweden in the last 16 after the losing in quite a tight game the day before to them. But we were never really in the game, even though the points said that we were okay. And we started slowly in both of the games against Sweden. We started slowly again, and they were holding, and were potentially they had game on the ground, and I had two ball left. So again, there was quite a lot of pressure, and Scott and Jay, obviously, I was in the circle, and they were like, "This is the most important ball that he's thrown. He's going to have thrown." And I hit the first shot, and I carried, and we were holding two. And we looked around, and I went back to the circle because I had another shot, and if I stayed, it was for six, and it was potentially going to give us a chance for game. And and they then had a chat with themselves again, which they told me after and said, "Now this is the most important shot that he's got to throw." And I missed it, and I threw it really badly, and we end up losing the game to 10, 9 or 10. And I was so disappointed with the way that it ended that I worked a lot, and that's what I said I needed to work on. So the pointing kind of, I felt, and I still feel really comfortable with that. So as much as I throw a lot of ball and point quite a lot, when I'm at home, I work a lot more on the shooting at the moment and that aspect. And when we play in the garden, we do point one, shoot two. So he's still throwing a point down there, but you're working a little bit more on the shot. Um, and when we was in Santa Susana, I probably hit at both championships. I probably still hit more ball than I missed from point, which I'll take that all day long. And against Denmark in the last 16, we missed a shot, a couple of shots, and I had the last ball and I hit a carry for four, and that took us into a position where we could have where we could win the game, and unfortunately end up losing out to 12. So they're two of maybe the best shots at championships um, that I've thrown. But again, against Denmark on the last end, we're talking about the Kosh throw and how important that is. Unfortunately, everyone will say, "Oh, we shouldn't have thrown the Kosh at 6.5 meters." We didn't want to. It's a thick pitch at that in that area, and the Kosh plugged at 6.5. And I pointed the first one. They a bit of a retro, and I pointed, and it is probably one of the only ball that I didn't make count most of the weekend, and it touched the front one and wasn't on by about 4 mil. And from that moment, they hit the next 5 shots or whatever, and we end up losing 13-12, which is a bit of kick in the teeth. But so there's always things you look at, good things and bad things, and you're always going to find things at that high level when you're, to make the amount of ball that I made count. I think I had 3 games in a row which I made nearly every ball count on one of the quickest pitches that you could think about. And then even in that game, I played really well. I'd hit the shot to get us in and keep us in the game. And but you're always going to remember that one that you throw badly that just kind of destroys everything. That we should have won at the end before as well, Jay. A lovely carry and it went into our back ball. And then Scott hit the shot and he thought it was a carry and it just rolled over the string. So we should have won the game. It's just one of those things. They said you had the Danes were really complimentary. Said we deserve to win the game. And unfortunately, in the game that we love, you don't always get the result that you maybe deserve. And we definitely deserve to win that game. But we'll keep going and hopefully get it past that last 16 stage. Now we've had Albertville and Santa Susana, where we've been in the top 16 and performed really well at both tournaments. Maybe the next one will be a step further, closer to
I
that
think
medal.
we're always knocking on the door, and it's almost like Scotland in rugby and things like that. They're almost they're so close. But and here's an interesting one for you. There's a very good podcast called With Winning in Mind. A guy called Lanny Basham. He's got a fabulous book as well, and he says that in a particular situation, excuse me, he went to this big American camp and all the soldiers were there and the generals and everything. And he started talking about one miss. And the general just said, "We don't talk about the misses ever. You ever talk about a miss again, you're out." He said, "You focus on the successes and what can you get. You take the lessons from the misses, but you literally 2 minutes, then it's gone. We only talk about the good things." And I think there is always gold in defeat. It's looking for that little bit of gold and that silver lining. And so, pressure. Obviously, you were under pressure, Albertsville. It was in your mind the night before. You were running scenarios, mind movies, what ifs, couldas, shouldas, wouldas. How do you deal with something like that? What do you do?
I think having the routine and the practice kind of helps with pressure. I know before Albertville, and I know some people have had it because I've played against people when they're going away and their game just drops a little bit. I've been really fortunate that I've been to 2 championships and I haven't had to sit out a game, like which must mean that I'm performing to a good level. And I seem to I love the competition, so my game maybe raises it goes up if I when I'm playing abroad most of the time. Obviously, you still have those moments where it's not quite there, but um, and I don't know what that is. It's just the game and the way that I feel about the game. Something happens where I just want to be better than whoever we're playing against. And but pressure is a. I definitely felt the pressure on the first ball I threw against France. I didn't throw it very well. Got a nice. It was in an area. I didn't really do too much with the ball, and I then settled into that game, and I then started to throw the ball how I wanted to and threw. I was throwing it nicer, but um, I just think there is definitely for me more pressure on the shot than the point because I don't do it as much. So that's why I try and the problem with shooting for me is that I don't when I'm in the garden I don't necessarily have that process when I'm pointing whatever that process is it's the same. But I feel like I stand in the circle too long when I'm shooting in a gameplay situation. Whereas if I'm in the garden, I'm just throwing ball and I'm shooting and over. So it feels easier all the time. But I feel like because we're in a position where we can get more points or where we can, it comes down to me at that moment. Sometimes I throw the ball and I force it out too much. So when I try and slow it down and I try and add a bit more loop to it when I when I'm really thinking about that and that sometimes helps. Um, but it doesn't always feel, and this is what I said, trying to feel comfortable when I'm throwing that shot. Like tomorrow when I'm playing, I know I'm going to be shooting, and I'll be shooting most like all day probably, and I'm not worried about that. It doesn't feel like I don't have a fear for it because I know because I'm doing it all the time. Then I'll feel reasonably comfortable, and I'll be into a rhythm. But fair play to people that just go out and continually have to hit ball like all the time. I think there's different aspects. People say point is harder, shooting is harder. Middle's probably the hardest because you've got to do both, which is why I think Scott and Roland and Kai to a degree still coming along. But they're the three best kind of out and out middles. Jack also is a good middle, but to hit that ball when you need to and to point when you need to and to do both is crazy. But um, the point you have to be in an area like you can kind of get away with throwing a bit of a bad ball or someone else can throw a worse ball. Your shot if you're not on the ball you don't really get very much for that. So fair play to people that just continue to stand there and sling ball down there, especially on a difficult terrain as well.
I think for you, you're very comfortable with the routine and everything for the shoot for the pointing, and you know and you've got it. But if I may offer just the tiniest bit of advice, make your shooting practice your play just as you have done in your pointing, because once you crack that, there won't be any problems. The Pétanque coach kicking in with unasked for advice.
Take it all
So
the time.
what life lessons has the game taught you?
um I don't take anything for granted. Like you can win and you can lose in this game, but that's life as well. um be there for people, like try and support everybody, and like 'cause it comes back around to you as well. Um, be humble. Like I'm not too good to come and like. I'd love. I think that the young people within the game at the moment, obviously, there's quite a lot of people coming through, but I, there's been occasions, and this isn't for every junior or every young person, that after a game where we potentially have played against some, you try and give a bit of feedback or a bit of support, and they not everybody wants to listen to it, and that's fine. But you know, if I was when I was younger, I one of the first times I went away, I went to Nimes and I went and played with Kev Spillett and Richie Spillett, and it was a really good tournament, really high standard tournament. And in the first game, like I thought I knew everything at that stage, and I definitely didn't. Um, and I always remember on the first end, I had the last ball, I was playing middle, and Kev said to me, "If you hit this ball, we'll be in a game. If you miss it, we're going to get fannied." So thanks. There's a lot of pressure, but being young and confident, I thought, yeah, I'm just going to go and hit the ball and talking rubbish. I missed the shot. We got fannied in about four ends. The next game, exactly the same situation. Fortunately, I hit it, and we was in a tight game, but we ended up winning it. And I always remember like starting well and is really important in a game, but just to listen to people and try and take on. I mean, he didn't give me that much advice. Just don't miss the ball, which isn't a massive amount of help. But yeah, I always remember that one thing that he said. When my aunt started playing, she always said like a ball in front's never wasted. like it's more important than maybe a ball behind, although sometimes it does move and gosh can come back into play with your ball. But so just to be around the front ball and to try and makes then it gives you more options. But yeah, supporting people is really important, and I like doing that. I've had a couple of people that have asked to come and like to play or for us to coach. Me and Jay have done some coaching. Kai, Alex, we actually coached. We done 2 coaching days for some scouts last year. About 60 scouts over the 2 days, and there was really positive feedback. Unfortunately, we then held a tournament and none of them turned up. But so that's a real big issue across the country, trying to get more young people involved in the game. And I look around about how people are kind of involved, and it normally comes from players and their children more than just new people stumbling onto the game. So how we get that out there is still a challenge for us. We have a couple of our committee members that go to some schools across the area and trying to do a few lessons in schools. Obviously, working in the school, ours is a little bit different because obviously some of our students have got quite high levels of behaviour, some metal balls being thrown around. But we did try and kind of get a pitch made at work, which would be beneficial for us as well. I'm not gonna lie, but to try and get some younger players maybe not involved in some of that more risky behaviour, because I know for sure it kept me and Scott off the out of trouble when we were younger, because we were too busy, and if we weren't doing the right things, we weren't allowed to go and play. So, and we once we got hooked onto that, then we wanted to go and play more often. And if your behaviour is bad, you're not doing the right things, you're not going. So that was really important to us. But yeah, trying to get more people into the game of all ages, not just young people, because the game since I first started has definitely dwindled. And league play, we used to have 9 leagues in Kent. I think we're down to 5 at the moment. That dropped again from COVID. We need an indoor facility. I'm sure that's definitely top of the priority list. But unfortunately, every region is going to be like, well, we're not going to put money in unless it's near us. So then it just goes round and round, and that's another ongoing kind of issue. But they're definitely things that would be nice to have moving forward. I think the closest thing we have at the moment is Gravesend, which is nice to have, but still lets a fair amount of rain in on the sides if it is a bad day, windy day. But it's not a bad place to start.
Yeah, it's making Pétanque sexy or cool is always something difficult. And I go to France a lot and it's all family. There's very rarely someone comes in who's not in a Pétanque family. It does happen when they ascend. It becomes just part of, the whole ethos and everything about it. But interesting what you said there just to now. Listen to your elders. Those of us who are very old, should listen to us. um, but also listen to people who've actually done it and been there. And part of my conversations with people like yourself is to help those players who are new to the game to try and extract that gold. And you've certainly brought it today, and thank you so much for that. So we'll finish up with a couple of funny things.
Yeah.
Secret tips, just between you and me. Just
Um,
one.
don't know. I don't know if it's a tip, but like when whoever's shooting for me, I always stand like next to the ball. Obviously, you have to have faith they're not going to throw a hook and hit you, but and I don't look at the ball. I don't look at what they're throwing. I look at the ball, and I think it kind of narrows the view down of the pitch and makes it feel a bit closer than maybe what it is. I don't know if that affects or helps my shoot. I don't actually ask him. That's just what I do. So and and again, knowing your throw, like know how you throw the ball. Like if you throw the ball 100 times and you throw it how you want to throw it, are you going to be where you want to be at the end when that ball finishes moving? And if it's no, then you don't know your throw. You don't know how you're going to be throwing the ball. Obviously, you can throw the ball wrong, you can miss a spot, you can not add enough spin. But if you generally throw the ball and you hit that spot so many times and you're still meters away from the cosh, then you're getting the wrong spot. So you need to work on that a little bit more.
So, favorite brand, make and model of ball, and why?
Um, so at the moment, I play with Toro, and I'd say that they are my favourite. Um, it's probably a placebo, but I had them when I qualified for Albertville. So that was the first time I went and represented. I then changed to RCX because they brought them back after having them gone for a while. And they were really slippery and I couldn't get on with them. And I played with them for half a season and I then bought a new set of Toro and I now play with them still and I qualified for another championship. So every time I don't qualify, I'm just going to buy myself a new set of Toro and hope the next year is going to be better. Um, yes, 774 Toro.
And which model?
I
Is it the Inox or the Carden? Because they've got a couple of different ones.
think it's the Inox I play with.
Okay. So, dream team, apart from me, and we've never played together, and you'll one day you'll get that honor.
I look forward to it. I mean, I know I've seen a few of these now, and everyone is obviously talking about the team that they play with currently. So obviously, in this country, it would be I wouldn't change anything. Obviously, Scott's not playing this year. I'm looking forward to playing with Kai. I play with Kai quite a lot. But moving abroad, I always go with the big guns. So I'd go Rizzi and Rocha because I just think my day would be really easy. I point within it some kind of an area and they can just attack everything. So yeah, that'd be my dream team.
So, interesting question that I haven't posed to anyone else, but I'll pose to you because you've obviously been to Worlds and been to some. What's your opinion on payers? And do you think that would ever happen in the UK?
Um, I think that we've had
For
a few
those who don't know,
conversations.
just
Yeah,
before
no,
you answer,
I,
just before
I,
you answer, payers is a big, big thing in France where
mm,
you get two top players,
yeah,
Ritzy, Rocher, whoever it is, and then someone with loads of money comes in and says, I will pay you allegedly to play with me, and
yeah.
then all the money gets shared, taken by the winners and things. So, yeah, what's
I think that we've had a few conversations about that, and I think it would come down to number one, how much they want. Like if it was someone said, "Oh, you give Roger £100 to go and play," I'd probably say yeah, because just to play with somebody like that. But if it's thousands, then I just think that's a complete joke. And I know that when the London competition was on, there was a person from New York that was going to come and play with. I think it was Roger or somebody that was like quite high. And I think they were going to pay like 5 grand. Then they had to get the flight over. They had to pay like accommodation. And I just think that's crazy. I've like somebody last week at regional said I've done some work with him the week before, and he said, "Oh, 2 weeks ago, do you remember like you gave me that bit of advice and it worked really well, and I've been working on it." He said, "Would you mind coming and doing some coaching with me or playing in a competition with me?" He said, "I'll pay you." I said, "You haven't got to pay me. Like I'm not Russia. I'm not really like." I'm happy to play with anybody. Like it's not if I've got time, then I'll come and do some work with you, or I'll do like, and it's about timing for me. It's not obviously I work throughout the week in a quite a difficult job, and then Tanya allows me to kind of say allows me. She has just says go and do what you need to do, and that's the reason why I've been able to get kind of where I have in the game because there's no if I say I need to go and play 5 weekends in a row to get ready for this and she goes go and do it. You want like if you want to be the best and that's your goal, go and do it. So if I can help someone, then I'll help someone. I don't need money for it. Like if I'm going to put on a proper coaching session, which me and Jay have done previously, and it is on a weekend, and I work throughout the week, then that's a little bit different. I wouldn't like we have been given a little bit of money to support, but if it's to play in a competition, I'm getting just as much like somebody different. It's a different aspect of the game, and it's giving something back. And I want the game to continue to grow. I don't want it to die out because you only have the top people playing with the top people and no one else gives anyone else a bit of a chance to kind of improve or work on anything. So
yeah.
I don't agree with I think people should just want to play with different people every now and then. I don't think it should be paid for necessarily.
I think there's a big need to go back to 20, 25 years when we used to have these pro-am tournaments where you get someone who was very experienced in a doubles, for example, playing with a complete beginner. And it really brought people's games on and their understanding of games because the experienced player would explain what was happening and encourage them. And everybody wrapped the new players up in a lovely, warm blanket of encouragement. And I think what's stopping a lot of newer players accelerating the game is that they're getting battered by the same teams all the time. And they just think, well, what's the point? But that is the point, to get battered so that your
Yeah,
game
I mean
can
that's
get better.
I think that's a mindset. Like so when we started, I didn't like no one went, oh, you deserve a point against Michelle or Bruno, or like you had to work. And if you didn't and you got fannied 5 games in a row, eventually when you did get that 1 or 2 points, you thought, do you know what? Like I'm making improvements. I'm doing something a bit different. Like if you lose, and I've had so many people, I had a game where we played, I dropped down into a lower league because I went to work on my shooting for a season, and they wouldn't let us just go down at one. I'd start in the bottom division, so obviously people weren't very happy. International player dropping down and going all the way to the bottom. And I had a team that was okay. We had some good players. We had some people that were relatively new at the time, and we played a team. I'm not going to mention who they are. And we won in about both games for all four games in total. We won in about 40 minutes. And afterwards, I said, like, do you want to? Should we play again? Like, just a bit of fun, and we'll go through a few things. And I can like, you're not going to get a chance to play necessarily against this kind of level all the time. You're in lower division, so we can work support you a little bit. No, went inside. We stayed outside for another half hour. Had a bit of practice, so and but they went in. They just get game over, and then they didn't turn up to any competitions, and I just you're not going to improve if you don't go out and play against the best people. You learn more from losing than you do from winning. Like it's not a it's a mindset, and you have to be able to go, okay, I'm going to lose this. Like I'm going to lose every now and then, but that's going to give me a chance to improve and actually get better in the long run. Um, so yeah,
I think one of my favorite saying is learn how to lose because it's the only way to learn how to win. And you've just articulated it beautifully. So I think we'll call that a wrap on this one.
perfect.
Thank you so much, Dean. I'm really appreciative of your time. I know it's weekend and you've got a lot going on, as you say. And look, hopefully we'll get together, have another chat in the future. And
Can I just say one more thing?
of course, please.
You know we were saying about competitions and pro-ams.
Yeah.
There's what we used to have a competition at Meadow, which was hamper doubles at Christmas. Since we brought that back and it's at the railway, or it has been at the railway, depending on numbers, we might get a few more. The what we've done previously is like so last year Jason played with like one of the deputy heads at our school. I played with Senko at our school. So we were trying to get more people or people that haven't like this year. I think I'm playing with Lacey, who's just started with one of our other players. So there's like we're trying to give a little bit back. It's a Christmas event. It's a bit more fun, but some of the more experienced players are going to be playing with people that maybe haven't played like as much to try and give a little bit back as well. So um, if anyone's available want to come down, then look at that. Look out for that one around Christmas time. But it's definitely, as you said, it's important to do things like that and to work with people that we might not necessarily play with and try and improve other people's games and increase that level across the country, not just in one area. But
Exactly. So if you wouldn't mind, share something with me afterwards and we can put the link to that tournament in the show notes, maybe in the first comment so that people can find it, maybe enter. Obviously, depending on where you are in the country, Kent is right down the bottom and a very, very prolific region. I know I played my first juniors there, probably 1986. That's
the year I was born.
yeah. Oh no. Now you make me feel very old. Listen, Dean, it's been amazing. Thank you so much. We'll put that up and we'll call that a wrap. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.